Hello, this is question 6 from the 2010 MAT. In the questions below, the people involved make statements about each other. Each person is either a saint who always tells the truth or a liar who always lies. And we've got our notation S and L for saint and liar. Right, 6 people, P1 through to P6, sit in order around a circular table. P1 sitting to P6's right, as shown below. Right, you probably can't read the numbers on these. I can barely read them myself. So we're going anti-clockwise here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If that's going to matter or not, I don't know. Suppose all 6 people say the person directly opposite me is telling the truth. One possibility is they're all lying. But in total, how many different possibilities are there? So all lying. So 1 and 4 are opposite each other. 1's lying, saying that 4 is telling the truth. So 4 would be lying, saying that 1 is telling the truth. Yeah, fair enough. So what if 1 was telling the truth? If 1 was telling the truth, that 4 is telling the truth, then they would be telling the truth that 1 is telling the truth. Right, okay. So we have 3 pairs. So this is the usual problem of explaining it. There are 3 pairs with each pair being, well, they've either got to be SS or LL. So we've got 3 pairs with 2 options. So therefore, we've got 2 by 2 by 2 permutations, which means 8 possibilities, which is what they were asking for, wasn't it? Number of possibilities. Yeah, there we go. Oh no, here, total different possibilities. Cool, part A done. B, suppose now that all 6 people say the person to my left is lying. In how many different ways can this happen? Right, so let's start then. Let's do our usual if and see if we get any contradictions or if it just lays it out. So if P1 is a saint, then that will mean the person on their left is lying. The person on the left of P1 is P6. P6 is a liar, which means that P5 would have to be a saint, which means P4 would have to be a liar. So we'd be going saint, liar, saint, liar, saint, liar. That would be our 6, and that works because we've got an even number of them, which is a closed sequence. So that's okay. And then if P1 is a liar, then that means that P6 is a saint. And yeah, we're just going round in a different way. So we'd have LS, 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 and that would also be a closed sequence. So that's also good. So we've only got those 2 options. That's all there can be, 2 different ways. Right, okay. Right, the second part of this, we got N people. Oh, right, okay, so they've changed, we've up to any number N. We haven't just got 6 people anymore, but they're still sitting in the same circle. Suppose that all N people make the statement, the person on my left is lying and the person on my right is telling the truth. Explain why everyone is lying. Right, well, let's do something as a sort of counterfactual on this then. So let's start with someone who's telling the truth and then show they can't be there. I mean, all these people are essentially equivalent to each other. It doesn't matter which one we pick. So if P1, oh, it's not P anymore, Q1 is telling the truth, then what are we going to get then? So that means we'd have Q, person to their left is lying. So that's QN is lying. Person to the right is telling the truth. Q2 is an S. Then what would happen then? So for Q2 would be saying that Q1 is L. So that's a contradiction straight away. Contradiction. So you can't have you can't have anyone telling the truth for that reason. If someone's telling the truth, then the person on their right, they're saying, is telling the truth about them lying. So yeah, you've immediately got that contradiction for anyone, any S. So yeah, they say the person to their right is telling the truth. The person on the right says they are lying. So let's just spell that out a little bit more. So QX says QX plus 1 is a saint, and then QX plus 1 says QX is a liar. So let's put if QX is S there at the start. So just generalizing it. If QX is a saint and QX is saying QX plus 1 is a saint and QX plus 1 is saying that QX is a liar, that's our contradiction. Okay, so everyone must be lying. Therefore, no S allowed. Excellent. Last part. Suppose now that every person makes the statement, either the people to my left and right are both lying or both are telling the truth. If at least one person is lying, show that n is a multiple of 3. Oh, I need a new sheet for this then. Suppose that every person makes the statement, people to my left and right are both lying. Right, okay, let's take a general person then. So if QX is a saint, then we will get a saint in the middle, and they're saying the person to their left is they're either both lying or they're both telling the truth. So it would be that or that. So, well, if you've got all S's, this is just going to be everyone is an S, which we're not allowed because we need at least one L. Need at least one L. So we can rule that out. So if we've got someone who is an S, then any S must sit between two L's. Okay, so that's a start. Then we could go on to say then, let's look at the other one. If a QX is an L, so what are they saying? They're saying that they're either both lying or both telling the truth. So we can't have the same letter on either side. So we must have either LLS or SLL. Okay. Right, let's build up a circle then. So yeah, to build a circle, let's start from saying at least one person is lying. Well, yeah, if you've got a liar in there, you can't have a liar, you can't just have liars all the way round. That just doesn't work, because we know that a liar has to be next to a saint. So let's start then from, well, let's start from the saint, because it's the one which is definite. There's only one option if you've got a saint. Actually, I mean, that's showing what's happening here. Okay, well, let's start as in here and here. We know what these letters have got to be. To build a circle, starting from S, then what are we going to get? So we have to have LSL. That is actually a acceptable circle as well, isn't it? Because each L at the end is between an L and an S. So you could put that into a loop of LSL, and that would be fine. So that is closable. Yeah, so we can have that. That is closable, if that's a word. So that's closable. If we were going to build from this then, so we have to have LSL. So the next one along would have to be an L. We don't have any choice. That's not closable. We can't close that at all. And we know that that has to be an L. We don't have any choice. That is not closable. Not closable. So it's not a loop, because you can't have an L between two L's, which is what we'd have if we joined up these ends. So what do we do next then? So we would put an S at one end, SLL, SLL. That is closable. So that's closable. Then we could have, well, we know what's got to go. We've got to have an L at that end and an S at the other end. Which one are we going to want? Let's go there then. L, S, L, L, S, L, L. So is that closable? No, again, because we'd have three L's in a row, so we can't have that one. and then that would have to be an L, L, S, L, L, S, L, L. That's not closable because again we'd have 4 L's in a row that time, and then we put an S on at that end because they'd have to be. So you get SLL, SLL, and then that is closable again. So we're building it up in blocks of SLL on all of these, aren't we? You have to build them in that way. We're just adding blocks of SLL. So we build using blocks of SLL, which means, so yeah, then you can just do a therefore divisible by 3. Yeah, okay, that was fine. Again, it's just being logical on these sort of things. I quite like this way. I've kind of chanced upon just setting it out this way, but I think doing it line by line, it shows how you're building it up. The key thing I think that's probably easy to miss is seeing whether they're closable or not, because you can write these out, but you need to show that that one that's got 5 letters in it is not a closable loop. I suppose I missed out the one with 4, but yeah, you can't, if you close that, you can't have 4 L's in a row like with the previous one. If you had L, S, L, L, well, you can't have 3 L's in a row if you turn that into a loop. So you can't just say, oh yeah, here we go, here's some ones, you know, we're just building up in blocks of 3. You have to show which loops are actually closable loops or not. Otherwise, you haven't actually taken that final step. But yeah, again, they've mixed that up nicely from previous questions. So at least they haven't made, like previous papers for question 6, at least they haven't made these too repetitive. That was a nice little twist.